On the docket tonight, the next live trial right here on your front row seat to justice, and it's a high-profile one. It all happened in the middle of Derek Chauvin's case out in Hennepin County, Minnesota. It involves an officer. Her name is Kim Potter. She's now a former police officer. This is her mugshot. She shot and killed Dante Wright. And it's not a whodunit. It's not what happened, because the whole thing is on video. She shot and killed Dante Wright. I've got the video of it. I'm going to show it to you right now. I'll give you a warning ahead of time that you're going to see at the moment of the shooting. We'll freeze the video for a second, but this is exactly what happened. Take a look.
Don't. You said stop, bro. Don't do it. Don't do it.
That's the case right there. Opening statements are scheduled for Wednesday. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who's following this case and is heading out to Hennepin County once again, where she was for Derek Chauvin's trial. They were in court today. What happened?
They were in court today, Vinny. They handled a lot of things, hoping to move things along quicker once this trial starts. They only took the morning. Kim Potter waived her right to be there, so it was just the attorneys. They handled jury instructions, making sure those got hammered out. But they also talked about what this jury is going to see and not see as far as the evidence that is approved or deemed permissible by this court. In particular, the background of the parties in this case. The defendant, former officer, Kim Potter, and the victim, Dante Wright. There was a push or request by the defense to try and be allowed to show this jury a photo of Dante Wright holding a handgun, not involved in the incident, nothing that it was at the time of the incident, but this was something where he's in a mirror and he's holding it, and they wanted to be able to show it to counter spark of life testimony. Here's how Judge Chu ruled on that today.
All of those allegations of what Mr. Wright should or should not have done can come out during testimony. They don't belong in the instructions. Any reference to Mr. Wright's negligence would only tend to confuse the jury. But the defense, of course, can argue it. As far as the warrant is concerned, again, counsel is entitled to get testimony in that a warrant, even though the officers didn't have the warrant in hand, and entitled them to arrest Mr. Wright.
They're talking about the actions of Wright that day, what he should have done, and whether or not the defense can ask about it. But when it comes to that photo, she did deny that request to admit it and put it in front of this jury. So that is not going to come in. But she also was asked about good character evidence for Kimberly Potter. That's something that the state wanted to limit coming in through witnesses. Here's how she ruled on whether or not those law enforcement witnesses can come in and talk about Potter being a law-abiding officer and someone who was peaceful.
The rules of evidence allow admission of character evidence if offered by the accused. And the two matters, being peaceful and law-abiding, I believe are appropriate matters for character evidence. Because of the charges here. They do pertain to the charges here. I will not allow evidence concerning specific instances of good conduct. But I will allow it.
Some of what the defense wanted to get in, which is that good character evidence, but what the state wanted to keep out, which was specific instances. She ruled in part on that motion in limine. Vinny?
So a big part of this case, you watch the video, you hear her say taser, taser, taser during that motor vehicle stop where Dante Wright goes back into the car. What do we know about that department's policy relative to tasers?
It's going to be an important part of this case that the jury is going to be looking at as far as a lot with training, but this is particularly the policy at the Brooklyn Center Police Department, because we know the prosecution is not only going to have to combat that, the defense is going to say that this was an accident, but also that the prosecution wants to say that even pulling the taser was wrong. Here's their policy of when and what circumstances a taser device can be deployed. When the subject is violent or physically resisting, or that subject has demonstrated by words or actions or intentions that they are going to be violent or physically resist, and that they reasonably appear to present the potential harm to officers or themselves. It also says that mere flight from a pursuing officer without other known circumstances or factors is not good cause for the use of the taser device. And it goes on to say in a different section that there are some circumstances where a taser should not be deployed, where it should be violated. And under that list, that last one is individuals whose position or activity may result in collateral injury. For example, falling from a height or operating a vehicle, which we know after the deployment or the firing of that weapon onto Dante Wright as he's trying to get into that driver's seat, the car then drives off and hits another vehicle that was parked.
All right, Julie J., stand by. I want to bring in the think tank, get some reaction to what we just talked about right here. Michael Bixson, Bernardo Villalona, Monica Lindstrom still with us. Let me ask you, Monica, your thoughts about if, in fact, there was no shooting here and she actually had a taser in her hand. And do you think there would be a legal action or a legal case or internal affairs looking at the actions of Kim Potter that day?
I think it would only matter if the defendant, the victim in this case, but he would be a defendant, were to make a complaint, really, or unless the fellow officers had made a complaint that she used excessive force or something like that. If nothing was brought up, I don't really think there would be an investigation because it wouldn't be flagged by anybody. But if there was an investigation, then obviously we'd be looking at the policy that was just described there. And I think there's a little bit of inconsistency when the policy said that if someone is physically resisting, you can use a taser, but mere flight is not enough. Well, he is clearly resisting because he rips his hands out of the officers and gets in the car. So he's not just trying to take off, but then you have the issue that he's in the car. Well, if it's parked because he got out and the car didn't move, so if it's parked, is it really moving when he gets in, or is it at a risk of moving? So there's a lot there. If the shot hadn't have taken place, I doubt there would have been an investigation, though, unless someone actually complained.
Michael Bixson, do you see a problem with the use of a taser or the attempted use of a taser here? Obviously, she didn't use a taser. That's why we have a trial. But let's get to that issue on whether or not it was proper to even attempt to pull the taser.
I mean, based on these facts, I think it would have been fine. Maybe they would have made a complaint, but I really can't see it going anywhere. Based on, use of force doctrine, in a scenario like this, I would be shocked if she were to really get in any type of trouble for the use of a taser, at least in this specific scenario.
All right, Bernardo, so explain to us, former homicide prosecutor. You've done so many cases. What is the key issue for the prosecution here? What is the fact that you need to demonstrate to this jury to say this is a crime and not just a tragic accident?
So the problem that the prosecution has here, and I think it's kind of murky the waters, is that you have to prove that she knowingly and intentionally created this unsafe situation. So how do you knowingly and intentionally create this unsafe situation when what you believe you're taking out is a taser, but instead it's a gun? So her intent is to take out the taser. That's what we're going with. So the prosecution's going to have to prove that's the hurdle that they have. So I think they have to take a step back and argue that even the use of the taser, taking it out, was an excessive use of force. So that in of itself is what created this situation. And it just went a step further where it actually was the firearm. So that's what they have to hone in. And I think that piece of policy that we saw during Julia's portion, where she actually points out that you can't use a taser, shouldn't be using a taser when you're going to create such a horrible situation in the sense that he's about to drive away.
Okay. Opening statements on Wednesday. Now, when we come back, there it is, opening statements, December 8th. That is Wednesday. Big case here on your front row seat to justice.